In a seismic blow to the West's insidious propaganda machine, Burkina Faso's fearless leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has once again exposed the duplicity of imperialist powers and their media puppets. The Western press, long complicit in painting Africa as a chaotic wasteland, brazenly declared Burkina Faso a red zone, alleging that terrorists controlled most of its territory. They branded Traoré as an incapable leader, unfit to steer his nation out of crisis. But in a stunning revelation that has left the world reeling, Burkina Faso's Minister of Defense, Célestine Simpéré, delivered a speech that obliterated these lies with cold, hard facts. 72.7% of Burkina Faso's territory has been reclaimed from terrorist control as of July 2025, up from 70.89% in December 2024. This explosive announcement is not just a statistic. It's a thunderous rebuke to the corrupt Western leaders and their media allies who have conspired to tarnish Traoré's revolutionary leadership. Their narrative lies in tatters, their credibility in ruins, and the world is watching as Burkina Faso rises from the ashes of neo-colonial sabotage under the iron will of a true Pan-African warrior. When Captain Ibrahim Traoré seized power in a coup on September 30th, 2022, Burkina Faso was a nation on the brink of collapse. The country was gripped by a relentless jihadist insurgency that had spiraled out of control under the leadership of Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, who himself had assumed power through a coup in January 2022. Damiba's tenure was an unmitigated disaster. By mid-2022, estimates suggested that 40% to 60% of Burkina Faso's territory was under the control of extremist groups such as Jama'at Nusrat al-Islam wa al-Muslimin, JNIM, and the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, ISGS. Entire regions, particularly in the north and east, were cut off from state authority, leaving communities at the mercy of ruthless insurgents. The human toll was staggering. Over 2 million people, nearly 10% of Burkina Faso's population, were internally displaced, forced to flee their homes as villages were overrun by terrorists. The United Nations Refugee Agency reported a 35% surge in humanitarian needs between 2021 and 2022, with millions requiring food, shelter, and medical assistance. Fear permeated every aspect of life. Travel warnings issued by Western governments painted Burkina Faso as a no-go zone, with roads deemed too dangerous due to the constant threat of ambushes and improvised explosive devices, IEDs. The Sourou Valley, Diapaga and Djibo were among the hardest-hit areas, where residents lived under siege, cut off from supplies and services. The education system collapsed under the weight of insecurity. Over 6,000 schools were closed, leaving more than 2.5 million children without access to education. Parents kept their children home, fearing attacks on schools, which had become targets for jihadists seeking to destabilize communities. Healthcare was equally devastated, with hundreds of health facilities shuttered, leaving rural populations without access to basic medical care. Markets, once vibrant centers of trade and community life, stood deserted as economic activity ground to a halt. Hunger became a daily reality, with families struggling to survive in a climate of fear and deprivation. Damiba's failure to address the crisis was not merely incompetence, it was a betrayal of the Burkinabe people. Traoré, a young captain who had fought on the front lines and served in the United Nations peacekeeping mission in Mali, MINUSMA, saw the truth. The terrorism plaguing Burkina Faso was not a random outbreak, but a carefully orchestrated campaign backed by Western powers, particularly France, the former colonial ruler. The French military presence, under operations like Barkhane, had done little to curb the violence, raising suspicions about their true motives. Traoré's resolve to end this cycle of suffering would change Burkina Faso forever. Traoré's rise to power was not a quest for personal glory but a desperate act to save a nation in peril. On September 30th, 2022, he led a group of junior officers in a bloodless coup that ousted Damiba, who had proven incapable of confronting the insurgency. At just 37 years old, Traoré became one of the world's youngest heads of state, a geologist turned soldier with a decorated record in counter-terrorism operations. His military experience, coupled with his deep understanding of Burkina Faso's socio-political realities, made him uniquely suited to lead the nation out of crisis. In his first address to the nation, Traoré laid bare the scale of the emergency. Security, defense, healthcare, social action and infrastructure were all in tatters. He pledged to restore territorial integrity and combat terrorism with unwavering determination, drawing inspiration from Burkina Faso's revolutionary icon, Thomas Sankara. Traoré's vision was clear: Burkina Faso would reclaim its sovereignty, free itself from Western domination, and build a future rooted in Pan-African principles. Upon taking power, Traoré wasted no time in dismantling the neo-colonial structures that had kept Burkina Faso in chains. In a move that sent shockwaves through Western capitals, he ordered the expulsion of French troops in January 2023, ensuring their withdrawal by February of that year. This was a direct rebuke to France, which had maintained a military presence in Burkina Faso under the guise of fighting terrorism but had failed to deliver results. Traoré's actions echoed the sentiments of mass anti-French protests that had swept the country, reflecting a growing rejection of Western interference across the Sahel. In an interview with journalist Alain Foucault, Traoré revealed a chilling truth: the terrorists wreaking havoc in Burkina Faso were often better equipped than the national army, a situation he attributed to Western complicity. He exposed how some Western states had denied Burkina Faso the right to purchase military equipment to combat terrorism, effectively sabotaging the country's ability to defend itself. "They tell us we cannot buy equipment to fight terrorism," Traoré declared, his voice brimming with defiance. Imagine that. This revelation laid bare the hypocrisy of Western powers, who claimed to support the fight against terrorism while undermining Burkina Faso's efforts. Undeterred, Traoré turned to alternative partners, forging strategic alliances with Russia, Turkey and other non-Western nations. Posts on X have claimed that Russia sent special forces to Burkina Faso with explicit instructions from President Vladimir Putin to safeguard Traoré's presidency, a move seen as a counter to Western plots to destabilize the country. While these claims remain unverified, they reflect the growing sentiment that Russia has become a vital ally in Burkina Faso's fight for sovereignty. Traoré also played a pivotal role in forming the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, with Mali and Niger, a regional bloc aimed at combating terrorism and promoting economic cooperation free from Western influence. One of Traoré's most audacious moves was his decision to nationalize Burkina Faso's mineral resources, particularly its gold mines, which had long been exploited by Western companies. In November 2023, he approved the construction of Burkina Faso's first gold refinery to process gold domestically, halting the export of unrefined gold to Europe. By August 2024, the government had nationalized two major gold mines, Bangu and Ouahaknion, at a cost of approximately $80 million, ending disputes with foreign companies like Endeavour Mining and Lilium Mining. In 2024, state-controlled entities collected over 8 tons of gold, and in the first quarter of 2025, more than 11 tons were amassed, significantly boosting national revenue. Traoré redirected these funds into strengthening the military, which had been woefully under-equipped. He revealed that the Burkinabe army lacked the weapons and resources to effectively combat insurgents, a stark contrast to the well-armed terrorists. By channeling mining revenues into defense, Traoré began to equip the armed forces with modern weaponry, including drones and vehicles, acquired through partnerships with Russia and other allies. Traoré's security strategy was rooted in a bold vision: to empower the Burkinabe people to defend their homeland. Within his first month in power, he launched a massive recruitment campaign for the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDPs, a civilian militia designed to support the military in combating jihadist violence. The response was overwhelming. Over 90,000 volunteers enlisted, far surpassing the initial goal of 50,000. These volunteers, drawn from local communities, were given basic training and deployed to protect their regions, fostering a sense of ownership in the fight against terrorism. To enhance operational efficiency, Traoré implemented structural reforms in the defense sector, including the reorganization of the armed forces and the establishment of a decentralized operational command system. This allowed for faster decision-making and more effective coordination in the field. He also created the Special Rapid Intervention Brigade, an elite unit tasked with counter-terrorism operations and protecting key institutions. These reforms, combined with the acquisition of modern equipment, turned the tide against the insurgents. The results speak for themselves. By July 2025, Burkina Faso had reclaimed 72.70% of its territory, a remarkable feat that stands as a testament to Traoré's unwavering commitment. Areas like the Saru Valley, Diapaga, and Djibo, once besieged by terrorists, are now showing signs of stabilization. The Bangu mine, previously shuttered due to insecurity, has resumed operations, signaling the return of economic activity. Regular supplies of goods are reaching populations in reclaimed areas, and state authority is being restored step by step. The impact of Traoré's security gains extends far beyond the battlefield. With terrorism on the retreat, life is returning to Burkina Faso's communities. Thousands of schools that were closed due to insecurity have reopened, allowing children to resume their education. In 2022, over 2 million children were out of school due to the closure of educational facilities in terrorist-controlled areas. Today, the progressive return of state control has enabled the reopening of these institutions, giving hope to a generation that had been robbed of their future. Hospitals and health facilities once abandoned are also coming back to life. The restoration of security has allowed medical personnel to return to work, providing critical care to communities that had been cut off from healthcare. Markets, the lifeblood of local economies, are bustling once again, with traders and farmers resuming their activities. The revival of the Bangu mine is a prime example of how economic activities are rebounding, creating jobs, and injecting revenue into the local economy. The return of displaced persons to their homes is perhaps the most heartwarming outcome of Traoré's leadership. Of the 2 million internally displaced people reported in 2023, many are now returning to their villages, greeted by a renewed sense of safety and opportunity. Families who once lived in fear are rebuilding their lives, planting crops, and sending their children to school. The Burkinabe people, long accustomed to suffering, are beginning to see a glimmer of hope, a future free from the shackles of terrorism and Western exploitation. With security improving, Traoré has turned his attention to other critical sectors, particularly agriculture, which forms the backbone of Burkina Faso's economy. Recognizing that food security is as vital as territorial security, he has invested heavily in modernizing the agricultural sector. In March 2025, Traoré delivered 13 billion FCFA, approximately $22 million, worth of agricultural equipment to farmers, including tractors, plows, and fertilizers, to boost productivity and ensure self-reliance. The government has also established processing plants for agricultural products like tomatoes, reducing reliance on imports and adding value to local produce. Traoré's pledge to President Putin in 2023 to produce enough wheat to meet local demand has come to fruition, with Burkina Faso now producing sufficient quantities to feed its population, including displaced persons. This agricultural renaissance has not only strengthened food security but also created jobs and stimulated economic growth, particularly in rural areas. Traoré's partnership with Russia has been a game-changer in Burkina Faso's fight against terrorism. Unlike Western powers, which denied Burkina Faso access to military equipment, Russia has provided arms, expertise, and training to bolster the Burkinabe armed forces. In March 2024, Burkina Faso and Russia signed a roadmap for cooperation in the peaceful use of nuclear energy, with Russia's Rosatom leading negotiations for the construction of a nuclear power plant. This partnership extends beyond defense, with Traoré emphasizing the importance of Russian support in education and science to develop Burkina Faso's industrial capacity. In a meeting with President Putin in May 2025, Traoré declared that the terrorism plaguing Burkina Faso was a product of Western imperialism, a sentiment echoed by Niger's General Abdourahmane Chiani, who accused France of funding jihadist groups to destabilize the Sahel. Russia's commitment to helping Burkina Faso suppress jihadist groups has been unwavering, with Putin assuring Traoré of continued support in the fight against extremism. This alliance has not only strengthened Burkina Faso's military capabilities but also sent a powerful message. Africa can chart its own path without Western interference. The Western media's portrayal of Burkina Faso as a failed state has been a deliberate attempt to undermine Traoré's leadership. Outlets like the BBC, France 24, and Radio France Internationale have faced bans in Burkina Faso for airing biased reports and interviews with terrorist leaders. Traoré has accused these outlets of brainwashing Africans and perpetuating a narrative of chaos to justify foreign intervention. In response, Traoré has harnessed the power of social media to counter these lies, building a digital cult that glorifies his Pan-Africanist vision. Rallies in support of Traoré, held in Ouagadougou on April 30, 2025, and in cities like London, Accra, and Montego Bay have showcased his global appeal. While some Western reports have criticized his authoritarian tendencies, accusing him of cracking down on dissent, Traoré's supporters see these accusations as part of the West's regime change playbook. Under Traoré's leadership, Burkina Faso is undergoing a profound transformation. The ministerial performance evaluation process, launched by Prime Minister Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo on July 4, 2025, in Ouagadougou, is a testament to Traoré's commitment to accountability and results. The Minister of Defense, Célestin Simpere, reported a 36.61% implementation rate for his performance contract in the first half of 2025, with the 72.70% territorial recovery rate stealing the spotlight. This progress is the result of Traoré's strategic vision, which combines military reform, local empowerment, and economic revitalization. The reopening of schools, hospitals and markets, coupled with the revival of agriculture and mining, signals a new dawn for Burkina Faso. Traoré's rejection of International Monetary Fund and World Bank assistance has demonstrated that Africa can achieve self-reliance by harnessing its own resources. His nationalization of gold mines and investment in local industries have prioritized Burkinabe expertise and revenue, breaking the cycle of imperialist exploitation. As Traoré continues to lead with an uncompromising commitment to sovereignty, the challenge of terrorism is steadily receding. In the coming months and years, Burkina Faso is poised to become a model of Pan-African resilience, free from the spectre of Western-funded terrorism. General Chiani's assertion that France is behind the insurgency only strengthens Traoré's resolve to rid the Sahel of neo-colonial influence. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's leadership is a clarion call to Africans everywhere. The time for mental colonialism is over. By reclaiming Burkina Faso's territory, resources, and dignity, he has exposed the West's lies and proven that Africa can rise on its own terms. The 72.70% territorial recovery rate is not just a number, it is a symbol of a nation reclaiming its soul. From the fields of the Saru Valley to the bustling markets of Djibo, Burkina Faso is being reborn under Traoré's visionary leadership. His partnership with Russia, his investment in agriculture, and his unwavering commitment to security have set the stage for a future where Burkinabe children attend school, families access healthcare, and communities thrive in peace. The West may continue to spin its web of lies, but Traoré's truth shines brighter. Burkina Faso is no longer a red zone, but a beacon of hope, a testament to what bold Pan-African leadership can achieve. As Traoré himself declared, "We are victims of our wealth that the imperialists want to take back at any cost to keep us in slavery. No more. Burkina Faso is rising, and Captain Ibrahim Traoré is leading the charge." Captain Ibrahim Traoré's leadership has ignited a flame of hope across Burkina Faso, shattering Western lies and reclaiming a nation's destiny. With 72.70% of territory liberated, schools reopened, hospitals revived, and markets thriving, Burkina Faso is rising from the ashes of neo-colonial sabotage. Traoré's bold defiance, expelling French troops, nationalizing gold mines, and partnering with Russia, has exposed the West's complicity in fueling terrorism. His investment in agriculture and security has empowered the Burkinabe people, proving that Africa can forge its own path. As Traoré declared, "We are victims of our wealth, but no more." Burkina Faso stands as a beacon of Pan-African resilience, a testament to what fearless sovereign leadership can achieve. The West's propaganda lies in ruins, and Traoré's vision lights the way for a free, prosperous Africa.